Welcome back. In the video interview that we're about to look at, the subject matter of the video, even though interesting, at times I feel is quite misconstrued. The right of a woman or any woman to have equal opportunity with her counterpart is something that I fully agree with. But I think that in the midst of trying to gain equal opportunity, certain women and certain movements have gone too far. Now, the anecdotal situations that individuals go through in life, whether they're positive or negative, are not a reason to exclude a whole group of individuals based off your personal experience. And it certainly, in my opinion, is not a reason to advocate excluding a whole group of individuals because of your own experience. But let's get into the video and see what all of the fuss is about.
I Hate Men is the uncompromising title of a book by a blogger from Lille in France, which ran to 500 copies in its first edition. But when it drew criticism from an official in the country's gender equality ministry, it became a sellout and is now being reprinted in the thousands. The author, Pauline Hermange, who is 25 and married to a man, immediately found herself the recipient of some pretty uncompromising vitriol, but is sticking to her thesis that misandry, the hatred of, contempt for and prejudice against men, can be healthy for women. I spoke to Pauline Hermange a little earlier and began by asking her whether her book's confrontational title is designed to provoke a reaction or whether she really means it.
It's actually true. It's a title that is a bit provocative, yes, but also not that violent, I think, because when I wrote it, I was thinking that you can hate waking up in the morning, but you're not violent when you say that.
You know, there's a world of difference between a man who's a rapist and a man who makes fun of girls' nights out, and you talk about girls' nights out in the book. I mean, how can you actually lump them all together?
Yeah, I know that not every man is a rapist, but I think that every man benefits from this misogynistic society and participates in this climate that women feel oppressed by. And a lot of time...
Okay. So basically, what Ms. Hermange is saying is that even though there are varying calibers of how men choose to deal with the women in their lives, from everywhere between the hard-working husband who's trying to prepare his family for the future to the individual who chooses to be a criminal, a rapist. So there's quite a bit of difference between the two extremes, and yet her proposition is that we all as men benefit from the way that society is set up and we participate in it. So my question is this: if you have individuals within the group that choose to pursue a negative path, how does that contribute to the overall view of the whole group? Because now the truth of the matter, and I've said this several times before, in every group there are individuals who believe in extremes. There are individuals who believe things that overshoot the main goal of their particular group. So let's go further. Let's see what else she has to say.
Men who think that they are well-intended and that they're doing so well for women and for the feminist struggle, they don't do enough.
So you talk about misandry a lot in the book, and yet you're married.
Yes, I am. Often I say that I married someone and he happens to be a man, and it's not his fault, and he's doing the best he can.
Thousands upon thousands of feminists don't hate men. Are they real feminists or not, in your view?
As long as a woman and a feminist is happy with the way she lives her feminism and the way she lives as a woman, it's very okay. But what I know And what I've come to realize is that a lot of us, women and feminists, we're not happy about our relationships with men, and we're not happy with men in general.
As you talk about domestic violence in your book, the vast majority of domestic violence is perpetrated by men upon women. Now, is your idea that you just live in your separate silos, which is something you seem to be advocating, or are you actually interested in engaging to try and eradicate that?
Well, I'm not advocating for women to separate themselves from men if they don't want to. And I am an activist in a charity, and I'm very angry at, for example, the governments that are not doing enough to protect women and to change the way men disrespect women in so many ways. So I think we need to do both. We need to separate ourselves from men when they hurt us, but also, of course, change the way things are so less women suffer.
But when this book came out, you were trolled. Were you trolled mainly by men, or were you trolled by women as well?
I was trolled by men saying that I should be put in an asylum because I was crazy, that I should be raped and hurt because of what I think, which they did not know because they had not read the book. And also that I was ugly, which is always very nice.
So now, in her last few words, she just highlighted one of the things that I just mentioned. There are extremes in every group. And the men who commented, it was clear to see that some of those individuals exist in the extreme. To tell a woman that she deserved to be put in a silo, or to be locked up because she was having mental difficulties, or to tell a woman that she deserves to be raped, is absolutely egregious. It's something that I will never, ever agree to, because the only thing that she's doing, despite the fact that I do not agree with the rhetoric that's being espoused here, the only thing that she's doing is she's voicing her opinion. And everyone is entitled to that opinion. But when you voice your opinion, you need to be prepared for individuals who are present in mind to take what you say, your rhetoric, and to disagree with it. And so there are ways of doing everything that can lead to a peaceful outcome. As I mentioned, I'm not in agreement with this rhetoric, but I do understand that she has the right to voice her opinions. And that's absolutely fine with me. We have a little bit more. Let's get through with it.
When women and men read "I hate men," what do you want to happen? Are you in this book trying to make society better, or are you actually closing off the possibility that it can be better?
I want to allow women to feel and express the anger that I know that they're feeling, because I felt it, and a lot of women that have read the book now have told me they felt it. Because we are not allowed to express this anger because we are women and we must be so nice and so polite. What I propose is being able to say, I won't deal with men so long as they are not worth my time and my affection. And maybe it's something that we don't say enough. I think we shouldn't settle for less, and we shouldn't agree to be with just mediocre men because it's just the way things are.
Pauline Hermonge, thank you very much for joining us.
So now, my closing thoughts. As I mentioned, this line of thought, this rhetoric that Ms. Hermonge is espousing, is something that I don't agree with. I feel like it's something that potentially could be dangerous if taken in the wrong way. Now, misandry and misogyny, in my opinion, are two very, very extreme points of view. The hating or the prejudice against men, I don't agree with. The hating or the prejudice against women, I should say, I don't agree with. Because in both situations, really, a person has little control over how they're born. You're born a woman or you're born a man, you have little control over that. Now, whether or not you choose to change that later on in life, that's another conversation. But what we're strictly talking about now is the prejudice or the hatred of men. And Miss Amaj is espousing this particular rhetoric because of difficulties that she's seeing. She says that she works with a group, she's an activist, and she's angry about domestic violence. She's angry about that. But now, let me pose a question to be thought about. In all instances of domestic violence, would it be fair to say that those instances are instigated and then not only instigated, but they are carried through by men? So now you have a situation where they start the argument and then they become physical. Do you think that that would be the case? Now, there are new studies that I've looked at that talk about how now in law they're considering this matter of mutual combat, a situation where it wasn't just the man being the perpetrator, but the woman that's involved, whether she is physically abusive or whether she's emotionally abusive by the things that she say, that's being taken into consideration now. Because I think if we're going to have a conversation about domestic violence, we also have to have a conversation about the cases of domestic violence that have not been reported, and the women are the perpetrators against men. Now that's a minority, or so I would think, but that still needs to be added to the conversation. So if we go a little bit further, we can see that Ms. Armand, even though she has these attitudes about men, she's married to a man. And she's saying that he's doing the best that he possibly can. Listen, this kind of rhetoric, in my opinion, is the reason why there is a decline in manhood. Individuals don't value masculinity. And if you ask me, this, in my opinion, is an assault on positive masculinity. Now, if you're going after those individuals who are indeed extreme and believe that women shouldn't have the same opportunities that men have, okay, that's fine. But that's not what she said. She's talking about all men as a group. And she's saying that they have the right as women to distrust. So what you're saying is that you're entering into any situation that involves a man, you're entering into it with bad faith. This is the kind of rhetoric that leaves an individual by themselves. Now, she has a husband, but she's asking women who read her book to hate men. Now, looking at it from a logical standpoint, does that make sense to you? I'm not attacking her, but what I'm saying is you will never achieve peace. You will never achieve a situation where everybody has what they need if you're focusing on the things that you want. Sometimes the things that a person wants does not lead them to happiness. But if they have what they need, then they can be content and they can move forward. I say that because I don't understand why it would be necessary to push that kind of rhetoric. I hate men. Being distrustful of men. Is that a situation where she's distrustful of her father, her brothers, if she has some, her uncles? Is she distrustful of them? If that is the case, I would say this, and this will be my final thought on this subject. Instead of pushing misandry or misogyny, individuals who feel that way, it may be a situation where you need to go and get some counseling. You might need some help in sitting down and working through your issues with someone that's qualified to help you to recognize the traumas that you've been involved with in your life. That has been my thoughts on this issue. As always, we're glad that you viewed the video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Be easy.